Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are continuing on Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. We are on chapter 19. So it's getting really interesting. So what is gonna happen next? Also the last chapter was kinda sad, so I'm not gonna spoil it for you, even though I want to. um Anyway, so get yourself comfortable, take anything you need, water, drinks, food, whatever. If you're doing something while reading, good luck, and we are diving right back in. Chapter 19. We find out the truth. Sorta. Imagine the largest concert crowd you've ever seen. A football field packed with a million fans. Now imagine a field a million times bigger, packed with people, and imagine the electricity has gone out, and there is no noise, no beach ball bouncing, no light. Something tragic has happened backstage. Whispering masses of people are just milling around in the shadows, waiting for a concert that will never start. If you can picture that, you have a pretty good idea what the fields of asphodel look like. Harsh. Honestly, I can't really imagine that, because I'm kind of a positive person. Anyway, the black grass had been trampled by ions of dead feet. A warm, moist wind blew like the breath of a swamp. Black trees. Grover told me they were poplars. Green clumps here and there. The cavern ceiling was so high above us, it might have been a bank of storm clouds, except for the stalactites, which glowed faint gray and looked wickedly pointed. I tried not to imagine they'd fall on us at any moment, but dotted around the fields were several that had fallen and impaled themselves in the black grass. I guess the dead didn't have to worry about little hazards like being speared by stalactites the size of booster rockets. Annabeth, Grover, and I tried to blend into the crowd, keeping an eye out for security goals. I couldn't help looking for familiar faces among the spirits of asphodel, but the dead are hard to look at. Their faces shimmered. They all look slightly angry or confused. Their faces shimmer. They all look slightly up. They will come up to you and speak, but their voices sound like chatter, like bats twittering. Once they realize you can't understand them, they frown and move away. We crept along, following the lines of new arrivals that sneaked from the main gates towards the black-tented pavilion, with a banner that read, "Judgment for Elysium and Eternal Damnation. Welcome, newly deceased." Out the back of the tent came two much smaller lines. To the left, spirits flanked by security goals were marched down a rocky path towards the fields of punishment, which glowed and smokily in the distance. A vast, cracked wasteland with rivers of lava and minefields, and miles of barbed wire separating the different torture areas. Even from far away, I could see people being chased by hellhounds, burned at the stake, forced to run naked through cactus patches, or listen to opera music. Why is that a punishment? Well, I like opera, but never mind. I'm getting lost in my thoughts. I could just make out the tiny hill with the ant-sized figure of Sisyphus struggling to move his boulder to the top. And I saw worse tortures too, things I don't want to describe. The line coming from the right side of the Judgment Pavilion was much better. This one led down towards a small valley surrounded by walls, a gated community, which seemed to be the only happy part of the underworld. Beyond the security gate were neighborhoods of beautiful houses from every time period in history, Roman villas and medieval castles and Victorian mansions. Silver and gold flowers bloomed on the lawns. The grass rippled in rainbow colors. I could hear laughter and smell barbecuing. Elysium. In the middle of that valley was a glittering blue lake, with three small islands like a vacation resort in the Bahamas. The Isles of the Blessed, for people who had chosen to be reborn 3 times, and 3 times achieved Elysium. Immediately, I knew that's where I wanted to go when I died. That's what it's all about, Annabeth said, like she was reading my thoughts. That's the place for heroes. But I thought of how few people there were in Elysium, how tiny was compared to Asphodel or even punishment. So few people did good in their lives. It was depressing. We left the Judgment Pavilion and moved deeper into Asphodel. It got darker. The colors faded from our clothes. The crowds of chattering spirits began to thin. After a few miles of walking, we began to hear a familiar screech in the distance. Looming on the horizon was a palace of glittering black obsidian. Above the parapet swirled three dark bat-like creatures, the Furies. I got the feeling they were waiting for us. I suppose it's too late to turn back, Grover said wistfully. We'll be okay, I tried to sound confident. Maybe we should search some of the other places first, Grover suggested. Like Elysium, for instance. Come on, goat boy. Annabeth grabbed his arm. Grover yelped. His trainer spread wings and his legs shot forward, pulling him away from Annabeth. He landed flat on his back in the grass. Grover! Annabeth chided. Stop messing around. But I didn't, he yelped again. His shoes were flapping like crazy now. They levitated off the ground and started dragging him away from us. Maya! He yelled, but the magic word seemed to have no effect. Maya already! 911! Help! I got over being stunned and made a grab for Grover's hand, but too late. He was picking up speed, skidding downhill like a bobsled. We ran after him, and I shouted, Untie the shoes! It was a smart idea, but I guess it's not easy when your shoes are pulling you along feet first at full speed. Grover tried to sit up, but he couldn't get close to the laces. We kept after him, trying to keep him in sight as he zipped between the legs of spirits who chattered at him in annoyance. I was sure Grover was going to barrel straight through the gates of Hades' palace. But his shoes veered sharply to the right and dragged him in the opposite direction. The slope got steeper. Grover picked up speed. Annabeth and I had to sprint to keep up. The cavern walls narrowed on either side, and I realized I'd entered some kind of side tunnel. No black grass or trees now, just rock underfoot, and the dim light of the stalactites above. Grover! I yelled, my voice echoing. Hold on to something! What? He yelled back. He was grabbing at the gravel, but there was nothing big enough to slow him down. The tunnel got darker and colder. The hairs on my back made me think of things I shouldn't even know about. Blood spilled on an ancient stone altar. The full brief of a murder. Wait, what? Oh, shoot. Sorry, it's just, as I told you, I already read some of the series. Just if you wanted to know, I'm at the 4th series, that is Magnus Chase. I read the 2nd series, and I'm not gonna spoil anything. I just won't. Anyway, then I saw what was ahead of us, and I stopped dead in my tracks. The tunnel widened into a huge dark cavern, and in the middle of a chasm the size of a city block. Grover was sliding straight towards the edge. Come on, Percy! Annabeth yelled, tugging at my wrist. But that's... I know! She shouted. The place you described in your dream, but Grover's going to fall if we don't catch him. She was right, of course. Grover's predicament got me moving again. He was yelling, clawing at the ground, but the winged shoes kept dragging him towards the pit, and it didn't look like he could possibly get to him in time. What saved him were his hooves. The flying sneakers had always been a loose fit on him, and finally Grover hit a big rock, and the left shoe came flying off. It sped into the darkness, down into the chasm. The right shoe kept tugging him along, but not as fast. Grover was able to slow himself down by grabbing one onto the big rock and using it like an anchor. He was 3 meters from the edge of the pit when we caught him and hauled him back up the slope. The other winged shoe tugged itself off, circled around us angrily and kicked our heads in protest before flying off into the chasm to join its twin. We all collapsed, exhausted, on the obsidian gravel. My limbs felt like lead. Even my backpack seemed heavier, as if somebody had filled it with rocks. Grover was scratched up pretty bad. His hands were bleeding. His eyes had gone slit-pupiled, goat-style, the way they did whenever he was terrified. "I don't know how," he panted. "I didn't—" "Wait," I said. "Listen." I heard something, a deep whisper in the darkness. Another few seconds passed, and Annabeth said, "Percy, this place—" "Shh!" I stood. The sound was getting louder, a muttering, evil voice from far, far below us, coming from the pit. Grover sat up. What's that noise?" Annabeth heard it too now. I could see it in her eyes. "Tartarus. The entrance to Tartarus." I uncapped Anaklusmos. The bronze sword expanded, gleaming in the darkness, and the evil voice seemed to falter just for a moment before resuming its chant. I could almost make out words now. Ancient, ancient worlds, older even than Greek, as if magic, I said. "We have to get out of here," Annabeth said. Together, we dragged Grover to his hooves and started back up the tunnel. My legs wouldn't move fast enough. My backpack weighted me down. The voice got louder and angrier behind us, and we broke into a run. Not a moment too soon. A cold blast of wind pulled at our backs, as if the entire pit was inhaling. For a terrifying moment, I lost ground, my feet slipping in the gravel. If we'd been any closer to the edge, we would have been sucked in. We kept struggling forward, and finally reached the top of the tunnel, where the cavern widened out into the fields of spottle. The wind died. A wail of outrage echoed from deep in the tunnel. Something was not happy we got away. "What was that?" Grover panted, when he'd collapsed in the relative safety of a black poplar grove. "One of Hades' pets?" Annabeth and I looked at each other. I could tell she was nursing an idea, probably the same one she'd got during the taxi ride on to LA, but she was too scared to share it. That was enough to terrify me. I capped my sword, put the pen back in my pocket. Let's keep moving. I looked at Grover. "Can you walk?" He swallowed. "Yeah, sure. I never liked those shoes anyway." He tried to sound brave about it, but he was trembling as badly as Annabeth and I were. Whatever was in that pit was nobody's pet. It was unmistakably old and powerful. Even Echidna hadn't given me that feeling. I was almost relieved to turn my backs on that tunnel and head towards the Palace of Hades. Almost. The fury circles the parapet high in the gloom. The outer walls of the fortress glittered black, and the two-story tall bronze gates stood wide open. Up close, I saw that the engraving on the gates were scenes of death, somewhere from modern times, an atomic bomb exploding over a city, a trench filled with gas mask-wearing soldiers, a line of African famine victims waiting with empty bowls. But all of them looked as if they'd been etched in the bronze thousands of years ago. I wondered if it was looking at prophecies that had come true. Inside the courtyard was the strangest garden I'd ever seen. Multicolored mushrooms, poisonous shrubs, and weird luminous plants grew without sunlight. Precious jewels made up for the lack of flowers. Piles of rubies as big as my fists. Clumps of raw diamonds. Standing here and there like frozen party guests were Medusa's garden statues, petrified children, satyrs, and centaurs, all smiling grotesquely. In the center of the garden was an orchard of pomegranate trees, their orange blooms neon bright in the dark. "The Garden of Persephone," Annabeth said. "Keep walking." I understood why she wanted to move on. The tart smell of those pomegranates was almost overwhelming. I had a sudden desire to eat them, but then I remembered the story of Persephone. One bite of underworld food, and we would never be able to leave. I pulled Grover away to keep him from picking a big, juicy one. We walked up the steps of the palace, between black columns, through a black marble portico, and into the house of Hades. The entry wall had polished bronze floor, which seemed to boil in the reflected torchlight. There was no ceiling, just a cavern roof far above. I guess they never had to worry about rain down here. Every side doorway was guarded by a skeleton in military gear. Some wore Greek armor, some British redcoat uniforms, some camouflage with tattered American flags on their shoulders. They carried spears or muskets or M16s. None of them bothered us, but their hollow eye sockets followed us as we walked down the hall towards the big set of doors on the opposite end. 2 U.S. Marine skeletons guarded the door. They grinned down at us, rocket pommel prompt grenade launchers held across their chest. You know, Grover mumbled, I bet Hades doesn't have trouble with door-to-door salesmen. My backpack weighed a ton now. I couldn't figure out why. I wanted to open it, check to see if I had something picked up a stray bowling ball, but this wasn't the time. Well, guys, I said, I suppose we should knock? A hot wind blew down the corridors, and the door swung open. The guard stepped aside. I guess that means entrez, Annabeth said. The room inside looked just like in my dream, except this time the throne of Hades was occupied. He was the third god I'd met, but the first who really struck me as godlike. He was at least 3 meters tall, for one thing, and dressed in black silk robes, and a crown of braided gold. His skin was albino white, his hair shoulder length, and jet black. He wasn't bulked up like Ares, but he radiated power. He launched on his throne of fused human bones, looking little, graceful, and dangerous as a panther. I immediately felt like he should be giving the orders. He knew more than I did. He should be my master. Then I told myself to snap out of it. Hades' aura was affecting me. Just like Ares' had, the Lord of the Dead resembled pictures I'd seen of Adolf Hitler or Napoleon or the terrorist leaders who directed suicide bombers. Hades had the same intense eyes, but the same kind of mesmerizing evil charisma. You are brave to come here, son of Poseidon, he said in an oily voice. After what you have done to me, very brave indeed. Or perhaps you are very foolish. Numbness crept into my joints, tempting me to lie down and just take a little nap at Hades' feet, curl up there and sleep forever. I fought the feeling and stepped forward. I knew what I had to say. Lord and uncle, I come with 2 requests. Hades raised an eyebrow. When he sat forward in his throne, shadowy faces appeared in the fold of his black robes, faces of torment, as if the gearmen were stitched of trapped souls from the fields of punishment, trying to get out. The ADHD part of me wandered off task, whether the rest of his clothes were made the same way. What horrible things would you have to do in your life to get woven into Hades' underwear? Only 2 requests? Hades said. Arrogant child, as if you have not already taken enough. Speak then, it amuses me not to strike you dead yet. I swallowed. This was going about as well as I had feared. I glanced at the empty, smaller throne next to Hades's. It was shaped like a black flower, gilded with gold. I wished Queen Persephone were here. I recalled something in the mist about how she could calm her husband's moods. But it was summer, of course. Persephone would be above in the world of light with her mother, the goddess of agriculture, Demeter. Her visits, not the tilt of the earth, created the seasons. Annabeth cleared her throat. Her fingers prodded me in the back. Lord Hades, I said, look, sir, there can't be a war among the gods. It would be bad. Really bad, Grover added helpfully. Return this master bolt to me, I said. Please, sir, let me carry it to Olympus. Hades' eye grew dangerous bright. You dare keep up this pretense after what you have done? I glanced back at my friends. They looked as confused as I was. Uncle, I said. You keep saying, after what I've done. What exactly have I done? The throne room shook with tremors so strong they probably felt it upstairs in Los Angeles. Debris fell from the cavern ceiling. Doors burst open all along the walls, and skeleton warriors marched in, hundreds of them, from every time period and nation in Western civilization. They lined the perimeter of the room, blocking the exits. Hades bellowed, Do you think I want a war, godling? I wanted to say, well, these guys don't look like peace activists, but I thought that might be a dangerous answer. You are the Lord of the Dead, I said carefully. A war would expand your kingdom, right? A typical thing for my brothers to say. Do you think I need more subjects? Do you not see the sprawl of asphodel? Well, have you any idea how much my kingdom has swollen in this past century alone? How many subdivisions I've had to open? I opened my mouth to respond, but Hades was on a roll now. More security goals, he moaned. Traffic problem at the Judgment Pavilion. Double overtime for the staff. I used to be a rich god, Percy Jackson. I controlled all the precious metals under the earth. But my expenses! Carlos wants a pay raise, I blurted. Just remember the fact. As soon as I said it, I wished I could sew up my mouth. Don't get me started on Quran, Hades yelled. He's been impossible ever since he discovered Italian suits. Problems everywhere, and I've got to handle all of them personally. The commute time alone for the palace to the gates is enough to drive me insane, and they just keep arriving. No, Godling, I need no help getting subject. I did not ask for this war. But you took the Master Bolt. Lies! More rumbling. Hades rose from his throne, towering to the height of a football goalpost. Your father may be fool Zeus, boy, but I'm not stupid. I see his plan. His plan? You were the thief on the winter solstice, he said. Your father fought to keep you his last secret. He directed you into the throne room on Olympus. You took the Master Bolt and my helmet. Had I not sent my fury to discover Yancy Academy, Poseidon might have succeeded in hiding his scheme to start a war. But now you have been forced into the open. You will be exposed as Poseidon's thief, and I will have my helmet back. But Annabeth spoke. I could tell her mind was racing, was going a million miles an hour. Lord Hades, Lord Hades, your helmet of darkness is missing too. Do not play innocent with me, girl. You and the satyr have been helping this hero, coming here to threaten me in Poseidon's name, no doubt to bring me an ultimatum. Does Poseidon think I can be blackmailed into supporting him? No, I said. Poseidon I didn't. I have said nothing of the helmet's disappearance, Hades snarled, because I have no illusions that anyone on Olympus would offer me the slightest justice, the slightest help. I can ill afford for a word to get out that most powerful weapon of fear is missing, so I searched for you myself. And when it was clear you were coming to me to deliver your threat, I did not try to stop you. You didn't try to stop us? But return my helmet now, or I will stop death," Hades threatened. "That is my counter-proposal. I will open the earth and have the dead pour back into the world. I will make your land a nightmare, and you, Percy Jackson, your skeleton will lead my army out of Hades." The skeletal soldiers all took one step forward, making their weapons ready. At that point, I probably should have been terrified. The strange thing was, I felt offended. Nothing gets me angrier than being accused of something I didn't do. I had a lot of experience with that. "You're as bad as Zeus," I said. "You think I stole from you? That's why you sent the Furies after me?" "Of course," Hades said. "And the other monsters?" Hades curled his lip. "I had nothing to do with them. I wanted no quick death for you. I wanted you brought before me alive so you might face every torture in the fields of punishment. Why do you think I let you enter my kingdom so easily?" "Easily? Return my property. But I don't have your helmet." "I came for the Master Bolt." "Which you already possess," Hades shouted. "You came here with me. With it, little fool, thinking you can threaten me." "But I didn't." "Open your pack then." A horrible feeling struck me. The weight in my backpack like a bowling ball. It couldn't be. I slung it off my shoulders and unzipped it. Inside was a 60-centimeter long metal cylinder spiked on both ends, humming with energy. "Percy," Annabeth said. "How? I don't know. I don't understand." "You heroes are always the same," Hades said. "Your pride makes you foolish. Think you could bring such a weapon before me? I did not ask for Zeus's Master Bolt. But since it is here, you will wield it to me. I'm sure it will make an excellent bargain tool. And now, my helmet. Where is it?" I was speechless. I had no helmet. I had no idea how the Master Bolt had got into my backpack. I wanted to think Hades was pulling some kind of trick. Hades was the bad guy. But suddenly, the world turned sideways. I realized I'd been played with Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. Had been set at each other's throat by someone else. The Master Bolt had been in the backpack, and I'd got the backpack from... "Lord Hades, wait," I said. "This is a mistake." "A mistake?" Hades roared. The skeletons aimed their weapons. From high above, there was a fluttering of leathery wings, and the three Furies swooped down to perch on the back of their master's throne. The one with Mrs. Dodd's face grinned at me eagerly and flicked her whip. "There is no mistake," Hades said. "I know why you have come. I know the real reason you brought the bolt. You came to bargain for her." Hades loosed the ball of gold fire from his palm. It exploded on the steps in front of me, and there was my mother, frozen in a shower of gold, just as she was at the moment when the Minotaur began to squeeze her to death. I couldn't speak. I reached out to touch her, but Laia was as hot as the bonfire. "Yes," Hades said with satisfaction. "I took her. I knew, Percy Jackson, that you will come to bargain with me eventually. Return my helmet, and perhaps I will let her go. She's not dead, you know. Not yet. But if you displease me, that will change." I thought about the pearls in my pocket. Maybe they could get me out of this, if I could just get my mom free. "Ah, the pearls," Hades said, and my blood froze. "Yes, my brother and his little tricks. Bring them forth, Percy Jackson." My hand moved against my will, and brought out the pearls. Only 3, Hades said. What a shame. You do realize each one only protects a single person. Try to take your mother? Then, little godling, and which of your friends will you leave behind to spend eternity with me? Go on, choose, or give me the backpack and accept my terms. I looked at Annabeth and Grover. Their faces were grim. We were tricked, I told them. Sit up. Yes, but why? Annabeth asked. And the voice in the pit. I don't know it yet, I said, but I intend to ask. Decide, boy, Hades yelled. Percy, Grover put his hand on my shoulders. You can't give him the bolt. I know that. Leave me here, he said. Use the third pearl on your mom. No! I'm a satyr, Grover said. We don't have souls like humans do. He can torture me until I die, but he won't get me forever. I'll just be reincarnated as a flower or something. It's the best way. No, Annabeth drew her bronze knife. You two go on. Grover, you have to protect Percy. You have to get your surgeon's license and start your quest for Pan. Get his mom out of here. I'll cover you. I plan to go down fighting. No way, Grover said. I'm staying behind. Think again, goat boy, Annabeth said. Stop it, both of you. I felt like my heart was being ripped in two. They had both been with me through so much. I remember Grover dive-bombing Medusa in the statue garden, and Annabeth saving us from Cerberus. We survived Hephaestus' Waterland ride, and the St. Louis Arch, the Lotus Casino. I had spent thousands of miles worrying that I'd be betrayed by a friend. But these friends would never do that. They had done nothing but save me, over and over. And now they wanted to sacrifice their life over my mom. I know what to do, I said. Take these. I handed them each a pearl, and Beth said, But Percy. I turned and faced my mother. I desperately wanted to sacrifice myself and use the last pearl on her, but I knew what she would say. She would never allow it. I had to get the bowl back to Olympus and tell Zeus the truth. I had to stop the war. She would never forgive me if I had saved her instead. I thought about the prophecy made at Half-Blood Hill, what seemed like 1,000,000 years ago. You will fail to save what matters most, and yet... I'm sorry, I told her. I'll be back. I'll find a way. The smug look on Hades' face faded. He said, Godling? I'll find your helmet, Uncle, I told him. I'll return it. Remember about Chiron's pay raise. Do not define me. And it wouldn't hurt to play with Cerberus once in a while. He likes red rubber balls. Percy Jackson, you will not, I shouted. Now, guys! We smashed the pearls at our feet. For a scary moment, nothing happened. Hades yelled, Destroy them! The army of skeletons rushed forward, swords out, guns clicking to full automatic. The Furies lunged, their wrists bursting into flame. Just as the skeletons opened fire, the pearl exploded at my feet with a burst of green light and a gust of fresh sea wind. I was encased in a milky white spear, which was starting to float off the ground. Annabeth and Grover were right behind me. Spears and bullets sparkled harmlessly off the pearl bubbles as we floated up. Hades yelled with such rage, the entire fortress shook, and I knew it was not going to be a peaceful night in L.A. Look up! Grover yelled. We're going to crash! Sure enough, we were racing right towards the stalactites, which I figured would pop our bubbles and screw us. How do you control these things? Annabeth shouted. I don't think you do, I shouted back. We screamed as the bubbles slammed into the ceiling and darkness. Were we dead? No. I could still feel the racing sensation. We were going up, right through solid rock as easily as an air bubble in water. That was the power of the pearls. I realized. What belongs to the sea will always return to the sea. For a few moments, I couldn't see anything outside the smooth walls of my sphere. Then, my pearl broke through on the ocean floor. The two other milky spheres, Annabeth and Grover, kept pace with me as we soared upwards through the water, and kerblam! We exploded on the surface in the middle of Los Angeles Bay, knocking a surfer off his board with an indignant "Dude!" I grabbed Grover and hauled him over to a lifebuoy. I caught Annabeth and dragged her over too. A curious shark was circling us, a great white about 3 meters long. I said, "Beat it." The shark turned and raced away. The surfer screamed something about bad mushrooms and paddled away from us as fast as he could. Somehow I knew what time it was. Early June 21st. The day, early morning, June 21st, the day of the summer solstice. In the distance, Los Angeles was on fire, plumes of smoke rising from neighborhoods all over the city. There had been an earthquake all right, and it was Hades' fault. He was probably sending an army of the dead after me right now. But at the moment, the underworld wasn't my biggest problem. I had to get to shore. I had to get Zeus' thunderbolt back to Olympus. Most of all, I had to have a serious conversation with the god who tricked me. And that is it for chapter 19. So I have a few words, some thoughts. First things first, about the dead. So here they say that it's more depressing than scary. I think it is right. Percy is right, because usually we see the dead as scary zombies or skeletons or mummies or whatever. But I think they're just more depressing because they're dead. They can't see their loved ones that are still alive. Second thing about some little people being in Elysium is depressing. Yes, because it is extremely depressing. So many people in this world are doing so much bad, and there's much more people that are doing so much bad than good that it's just depressing. My brother Pretorius, every time says, "Close the lights, you're gonna save the planet," and he is right. We have to save the planet. We have a lot of pollution. Also the wars, it's so many wars. And I can't even start with the famine and the people from Africa and the wildfires. So I think like we should all do small things, and these small things will be added to do one big good thing that will save the planet, and everything's gonna be good. About the book, because I kind of lured away. What was I about to say? Oh yeah, Percy sacrificing his mother and his friends wanting to sacrifice themselves for his mother. I think that is just amazing because, like Annabeth, who thought they should be like enemies or not friends or enemies, or just enemies, plain enemies because of their parentage, she was willing to sacrifice herself for Percy's mom, which I think is incredible. Grover being his best friend, but what they lived, and Percy being afraid that one of his friends will betray him. But he knew at that moment that those friends would never betray him, because they went through so much, like he said, through so much that it was like you had to be kind of very bad at trusting people to not know that these friends would never betray you. I think it's a problem a lot of people have, like anxiety and not wanting to have a lot of friends because they're afraid to be betrayed. I don't have much experience in life because I'm still a student. But I think well, I have been through betrayal. My friend betrayed me once. Since, but I've gone over it. We're still talking. She understood her mistake, and we're kind of going along. Yeah, along. I'm hearing along. So, um, did you guess who is the god who tricked Percy and Annabeth and Grover? Well, I know, of course, because I read the book. So, hope you enjoy it and see you next time. Bye!